Will all the aldermen please take their seats so we can get started? Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2018-2019 Board of Aldermen budget deliberations. Today is April 24th, 2018, and today we are here for the departmental presentation portion of the aldermanic budget process. But before we begin, will everyone please join us as we salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Alderman Anderson.
Good evening. Present.
Alderman Beatty? Alderman Fortunati? Alderman Gaynor? Alderman Gurman? Alderman Dinotasio? Alderman Golden?
Alderman Golden would like to be excused, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Grant?
Here.
Alderman Hardeman?
Alderman Hardeman would also like to be excused, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Smith? Here. Alderman Sutton?
Alderman Sutton would like to get excused as well.
Alderman Frank Willie? Alderman Vecchiarelli? Here. Alderman Vitro?
Here.
Alderman Vitale? 12 present, Mr. Chairman.
We have 12 present. We do have a quorum. At this point, the first department organization on our agenda is account number 4827, Literacy Volunteers of Southern Connecticut, page 92.
And Mr. Chair, I do not see Tammy Jackson, our representative, but if you have questions, I'm happy to answer that, or I can find out information if there are questions that you have that I just can't respond to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I gave you a new one.
Okay. Anyone have any questions pertaining to the literacy volunteers? Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is she running late, or she said she's not coming in today? To the mayor.
I don't know. I'm not sure. She didn't contact our office, but I'm not sure if, I'm not sure.
She could be running late.
Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you. Is this the department that helps the people try to learn English? Is this the where she, this is that department, right?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Vecchiarelli, I would say one of the core missions of the Literacy Center is to give assistance to folks that English is not their first language, to learn to not only read, but it's a great organization that has volunteers that helps them with a whole host of life skills for those folks where English is not their first language.
Any more questions pertaining to the literacy volunteers? Seeing none, we'll move on to the second one that we just added, by the way. It's the Harbor Commission, page 110. I don't know what the account is. Account number 4157, page 110. Thank you.
Good evening. Ray Swift, Director of Milford Listman Landing Marina. And other than looking forward to a new season with a few big changes, improvements coming to the landing, we're just looking forward to a a new season.
Anyone having any questions for the Harbor Commission? Alderman Beatty.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for, last year you told us a little bit about the new process for securing a reservation into the, am I remembering that correctly?
Yes,
And I'm
you are. I
wondering
was looking
how
forward
that
to-
worked. And the second part of it, was it a revenue stream as some, an unanticipated hope that would,
You know what? It didn't work out. And
Oh.
it had to do with an inability of DACWA, which is the company that takes the reservations, forwards the request to us, and the finance department. It was basically DACWA's inability to work with our finance department and have the transfer of funds into the city. I think they wanted a little bit too much control over that aspect of it. So while I was looking forward to it, it's not
Doesn't
a
matter.
great loss for us.
really?
Our
Yeah.
weekends, our reservations still come in by telephone, and probably 90% of our business is through reservations, and the people keep calling.
Is it correctable easily? I mean, will we help you?
You know, DACWA was they were pretty good. I got phone calls a couple times a week while we were in that process, and then once they couldn't adjust to our needs, I haven't heard from them. So we'll get by without them.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to Director Ray. First of all, thank you for all the good stuff you guys do over there, you and the staff with the plants and the groundskeeping. It's always beautiful.
Thank you.
And second, can you expand on some of the new things that are happening this year?
The major one is through the state's new port authority. We were able to obtain a grant which will allow us to redeck the marina, the boat ramp side, and the floats out in the harbor. We're going to use a hardwood. It's a Brazilian hardwood called Ipe, and it's just such a nice surface. And you got to take into account the wood that's on the marina right now is closing in on 20 years old. Really starting to show its age. A lot of the fasteners are starting to, to rust. So we're constantly putting screws in to hold them down. And through the state, this was just a great opportunity to complete a project that we couldn't afford to pay for ourselves. Made a proposal, they accepted it, and we obtained close to $400,000 to get this job done. And the bids went out, they're back. The low bid was accepted by the Milford Harbor Commission, and right now we're waiting on some processing to get the actual funds to the city. But we're ready to go as soon as that comes in, and we anticipate completing the marina before the start of the season, and then we can do the other sections as we can fit it in, because another 4 or 5 weeks we'll be into Memorial Day already. So. And just another, the patio was redone 2 years ago. It's held up well over the last 2 winters. It looks really, it's perfect. And I'm in the process of buying new patio furniture, umbrellas. It's going to look good.
Terrific. That is nice wood, Ipe, so that'll be really,
You know
really
what?
nice.
If anybody wants to take a look at it, down to Milford Yacht Club put it in 5, 6 years ago. Looks like new.
Alderman Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Thank you for everything you do. I just want to follow up on Alder Beatty's question. Are you exploring other online reservation opportunities?
There's an outfit called marinas.com, and we're listed with them. It's free. I get reservations on occasion through email, and No, I haven't, there are other outfits similar to DACWA, but I believe it's the same process where they want the funds to go to them and then they're dispersed back to us. DACWA is one of the larger ones, if not the largest, and I haven't looked beyond that into some of these smaller outfits. They just seem like they're just getting up and going, where DACWA has somewhat of a pretty good reputation over the last, they've been in business, I think, 5-6 years.
Thank you.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Good evening, Ray. It looks like your budget is status quo. So,
Yes,
Yeah.
it
Well-
is. We've cut back over the years, and it's pretty much been about this. The numbers have been pretty much the same for the last, probably 7-8 years.
yeah, so I just wanted to, extend my thanks for that. I know you put a lot of time in down there, a lot of hours, and, it reflects on the job that you do, so I just wanted to thank you.
Well, thank you. And next year, maybe it's getting tight. I'm looking at making a couple purchase requests today, and it's some of the columns. It's getting pretty tight, especially when it comes to the landscaping and the plants. But we'll make it work.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome.
Any more questions for the harbor master? Seeing none, thank you, Ray. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the great work you're doing down there. Looks great. The next on account is the 4828 Milford Preservation Commission, page 92. I don't see anybody here. Mayor, would you be answer any questions we may have?
Mr. Chairman, if you have any questions, happy to answer those.
Do we have any questions pertaining to the Milford Preservation Commission? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll move on to the next account, number 4131, Law Department. It's page 24.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board.
Anyone have any questions pertaining to the Law Department? Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. John, good evening. You had a request in for furniture, fixtures, or equipment of $2,500 in account 4990. What was your department seeking?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Anderson, which?
Sorry, it's account, it's on page 24.
Yep.
Account 4990.
I got it, yep.
Thanks.
And I'm sorry, what was the question?
What is the equipment or furnishings that your department was seeking?
Well, for the last several years, Matthew Wood's trial counsel, we've been seeking a desk. Matthew has no drawers, literally no drawers. We've had the same request. If you go back at least the last 6 years that, I think this is my 7th budget presentation. The last 6 years, we've asked for that to replace his desk. I'm not saying the desk would cost $2,500, but we put it in there, and every year I'm told we'll find it. Every year, his top of his existing desk. He does have a desk. It just doesn't have drawers. So that's what we're looking for.
It's called a table, right?
It's called the table. Yes.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What do you think it would cost us to get him a desk with drawers?
Alderman Vecchiarelli, I have no idea. I don't even want to guess. I haven't bought a desk since maybe high school, and that was, I didn't
Well,
pay for it.
if
And you know, I think that I'm mindful that these are public dollars and we're not looking to anything extravagant. So I certainly appreciate that. And I would be hopeful that we could get a reasonably priced desk at Staples or somewhere. I'm just looking for a desk with drawers. We're not looking for Ethan Allen Restoration Hardware desk.
John, maybe if you could let me know what you think, what you're looking for, and give me a cost, and we'll see maybe if...
We have one price. I asked Alderman Vitro to build me a desk, but it was exorbitant. But we'll look into that. We'll get some prices.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I was just going to ask if you can live with the cut without the desk.
We have lived with the cut, so yes.
Okay. But we'll,
We're going to find a way.
because that's really what was cut. Everything else looks like it's pretty much the same.
Everything is the same. I will point out to you a couple differences in that it's a net increase of $10,000. To use Alderman Vitale's word, to be truly transparent, there is a difference in that last year there was a cut in the other legal and miscellaneous professional fees, line item 4122 and 4189. Historically, for the years prior, it had been budgeted $77,500 and $57,500 respectively for those accounts. Last year, there was a $2,500 cut in each of those, bringing line item 4122 to $75,000 even, and line item 4189 to $55,000 even. I put in the additional historical amounts in my budget again this year. So that is a $5,000 increase from what this board approved last year. While you have certain adjustments in the net increase, you have contractual wage increases. You also have a reduction, however, in the risk manager position, which was budgeted at $83,506. That's the top step for risk manager. The Board of Finance reduced it to $75,959 because we've not yet replaced that position, hired Kim's replacement since her passing in January of 2017. So $75,959 is the equivalent of the step one as opposed to the top step at which Kim was.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Burcham, it's safe to say that those, where you added back what was cut previously is what you mostly spend your funds on. Did you have to take, in order to meet those expenses, did you have to take the money elsewhere when it was
yeah, I mean, we
taken out?
We made budget. It wasn't without some consternation and effort. I will say that there's been greater expenses over the last several years on experts and consultants and things of that nature because different matters have come up, whether we've had some significant construction-related claims. We've had some fairly complex land use matters, appraisals and the like. We've had some acquisitions of property over the last several years. Last year, we've needed appraisals, we've needed environmental studies, and all of that is what is used, is what exhausts those two line items. So in anticipation of that, that's why that request was put back in.
Just to sum up, Mr. Chairman, through you. So, Mr. Burcham, I have a question. In your professional analysis, are legal fees on the increase overall for some of these experts? Have fees gone up in the private sector?
Well, certainly in the private sector, where you get the difficulty is what's known as a municipal rate. Can you get a municipal rate? Because obviously it's public dollars, you want to pay less. In the private arena, I can only speak to you from what I know lawyers charge. You know, lawyers' fees can range anywhere from, in the New Haven County area, from $350 to $600 an hour. Municipal rates, we don't pay more than, I think the highest that we've paid for outside legal was $200 an hour, because it's just so competitive. And I know some other similar communities pay much higher rate than we are, but it's the same goes for engineers, same goes for appraisals. It's a tough economy out there, but people with inflation, they're trying to raise their rates, but we're trying to keep them down.
Thank you.
Alderman Beatty.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, John. Thank you for all you do for us and for the city. I anticipated some increases based on last year's discussion in training needs and conferences, and there isn't any. And I think we meandered into a discussion of what would you do. Last year was the 10% holdback. What would you do if you had a little extra money in terms of educational needs for travel, conferences, and things for your staff? And there's no increase.
Well, the good news, I think in Connecticut, is there was a lot of conversations with the Bar Association itself in terms of CLEs, continuing legal education requirements for lawyers. And in the last year, lawyers are now required to have 12 hours per year of continuing legal education. 2 of those hours have to be on ethics. Well, that's the bad news if you're a lawyer, but the good news is that there are a lot of groups, the Milford Bar Association, private law firms, for example, that are situated on the green, that provide these seminars for free. And there's also a lot of local conferences that are cost effective. So I've not experienced an inability for any of the members of my department to not go to a conference. They've all been able to go within the budget. So I've not requested any additional monies because we're able to get, we have the funds necessary to send people to conferences, whether it be the charge or they can avail themselves of the multitude of free conferences available and seminars.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Good evening, John. A couple of questions. I'm always stymied by the idea of capital outlay, because in my estimation, in working with budgets, with the educational budgets, capital outlay was always something you wanted. It's almost like a wish list, and it was something new. So, but I see law books under there, computers, that a new computer, additional computer, that's above your desk requirement. Maybe we can recycle one of the desks from Public Works or something for Matt?
We've gone down that road, and I've not received any positive, but we're still looking.
Okay,
I know that I agree with you, Alderman Vitale, there should be a desk out there somewhere.
I'm sure. Maybe you can go across the street to the
I've not received any confirmation of that, but we have.
Okay, getting down to the law books, is that a subscription or is that a hardcover, additional books?
No, it's a bit of a hybrid and somewhat of a misnomer in an old description of what it is. That's inclusive of our online subscription, our online research, as well as the statutes that we still get in hard book.
I'm just wondering if it would be under a different category, operational expenses, maybe to even put whatever, I'm sure you know better than I at that particular point. The computer, is that a replacement computer or a new computer or what?
Those are our replacement computers. It seems of the 6 computers in our office, 6 computers in my office, 3 lawyers, 3 administrative staff. Someone gets a new computer each year. I got my first new computer last month.
Oh, that's good.
It was very exciting.
Congratulations.
Yep.
The other thing is, we don't have a risk manager, but we do really have a risk manager because somebody has to be taking that role, right?
We don't have a full-time risk manager. We've had currently Tony Weeks, the paralegal, has been acting risk manager for several months now. She's paid a weekly stipend, and I've assumed more responsibilities in terms of interfacing with our insurance consultants as well as our third-party administrator for workers' compensation claims to help stymie
Okay,
that.
but so we, you know, if necessary, we do have a risk manager, or somebody will take that role on and take the responsibility.
The work is being done.
Right, okay, and having said that about the risk manager in insurance, can you tell us anything as to where the Anthem versus Cigna situation is with the insurance?
Yes, well, I don't want to disclose too much, but it's my understanding that a recommendation will be made. I disclosed it to the committee. As you know, the city went out to an RFP recently for health insurance administration. The last time we did it was 6 years ago. The change this time was that a committee comprised of representatives from each bargaining unit, both in the city and the Board of Education, was involved with the process from the beginning, helped draft the RFP, interviewed the respondents, and then we met, I believe, 10 days ago to review the last and best offers those that responded to the RFP made. And there were a couple of questions that the consultant that the city hired from Millman was going to go back to the entity that I believe there was, I'm not talking out of school, there was a consensus that they wanted, both as a committee and as the city. But right now, I'm awaiting confirmation from the insurance consultant that the last couple issues he wanted to address were in fact addressed. Once that was made, the mayor was going to report to this body.
So there should be a decision that's recommended?
Decision is imminent.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And the only reason, I apologize for being somewhat vague, is there's a few negotiating terms to go, and I don't want to undercut in this public forum our bargaining position.
Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. City Attorney. It was my determined intention tonight to ask about the law books before Alderman Vitale did, but I was unsuccessful. I do agree, though, that maybe there should be another name, because it isn't really bound books anymore. A lot of it's software, and I mean, I thought law books and statute books were only to have your picture taken in front of when you're being lawyerly. You have to have the books behind the green books, but you do get statute books and stuff are still bound volumes, right?
Yes, we have a very limited actual book subscription.
Right.
In fact, was talking with Matthew Woods this morning that he misses the digests. And the digests are cases, and they're just excerpts of cases. Now, I'm in that hybrid stage. I graduated law school in 1995, where you weren't allowed to use online research until your last year of law school. So you had to learn how to research books. But in today's day and age, if you meet a new lawyer, they wouldn't know how to find a case from a book. Right. But it's a difference. It's like people like to read on their Kindle, and people actually like to hold a book. But whatever you call it, it doesn't matter to me. But yes, the predominant cost is our online subscription, as well as a few, the statutes, the general statutes and updates of that nature that we receive.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, a question on, and I probably should know this, but I mean, when you list other legal fees, when the city retains outside legal services, as I know we regularly do, that's independent of the school district, which also retains its own outside, aside from you. Everything that is in terms of legal consultancy is listed in this figure that's on the account 4122, or is it somewhere else in the budget?
4122 and 4189. If you look at the description in your budget books, there's miscellaneous professional fees and services.
Okay.
And other legal fees can encompass both outside lawyers that we may need, outside appraisers, outside expert witnesses, engineers, consultants of that. It can cover postage for notices required, title searches.
And just so I'm clear, I may have asked this question in other years, but the school district also operates independently, but they must have some interface with your office as far as for the city when there is some legal action that the school district is proceeding on. Does that involve the city attorney's office at all? It's all done strictly through them and
Two separate
things?
Yeah.
Okay. So everything I see here, other legal professional services, we're roughly, what is it, $134,000. That represents all of the monies used to hire other lawyers and consultants and professional.
Copying fees.
Yeah, everything, okay.
Appraisals. I mean, if you know, in a revaluation year, I know how much all of you enjoy discussing tax appeal resolutions. All those involve getting an appraisal of the property. That's a fee. We acquired property on the Post Road. We had a phase 1 that was performed. That required a fee to do the phase 1. There's a lot of hands out on different projects. It's not just there's soft costs involved instead of just, you know, how much was the property cost.
We go into executive.
A lot of due diligence behind it.
We go into executive session and you talk about things with the tax assessor. I mean, there's a lot of research that goes on in all of those sessions, and it obviously doesn't come free. So I guess I've never looked at the figure before. It just seems like an awful low amount.
There's also filing fees, any court action, any land use appeal that we file. There's marshal service fee, blight foreclosures, tax foreclosures. Those fees have only gone up because those are set by the state. Those fees go up. So, you know, I do take pride in that we have a lot of status quo numbers here, yet the world continues to increase their prices.
Just to sum this up, I do want to mention, as far as any other department in the city, aside from perhaps the mayor's office, in discharging our responsibilities as aldermen and in the ordinance committee, I rely on your city attorney's office more than anyone. And I have to say, in the 5-6 years now that I've been doing this in the past 3 terms, your office is unfailingly helpful, cooperative. Tony, Deborah, everybody there, and they don't always tell me what I want to hear, but they always get back to me, always have information that I need, and it's always well thought out and very responsive, and I appreciate that a great deal.
Well, it's much appreciated, Alderman Smith, and I will tell you that I am blessed with some outstanding people in my office. I think that between Tony, Kathy, Valerie, we have just tremendous assistance and expertise. A lot of them have been doing it a long time. They don't have law degrees, but they're smarter than lawyers sometimes. And Deborah Kelly and Matthew Woods, I think, are the best deal going for what you get. I work in a lot of municipalities in my private practice, and I see what a lot of lawyers do and what they charge. And for what Deborah and Matthew pay, and I know they get paid a fair wage, but for the expertise that they bring to the table and the hours they put in, they do just incredible work.
Any more questions regarding the law department? Seeing none, thank you, John.
Thank you.
And thanks again for all the work you do for the city of Milford. Fine job. Next account on the agenda is number 4132, Ethics Commission, page 25. Anyone having any questions pertaining to the Ethics Commission? I think we're good, John. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
The next account on the agenda would be the Animal Control, account number 4340, page 59.
Good evening. I'm Scott Ellingson of Animal Control. Pretty much keeping the budget status quo.
Great, always great to hear that. Alderman Beatty? Anyone having any questions for the animal control? Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Outside, you have the 2 trailers. Those are the trailers for better regional, so if we get a problem, flooded or, you know, some big storm, we move them to where we need them, and are those, is that what those are, and is everything okay with them?
No, we actually have one SART trailer, and that's stored at the old armory. The 2 trailers beside our building actually belong to the state for all the construction they're doing in Silver Sand State Park.
Oh, okay, so the one that we share, the regional one, that's not those 2.
Correct. It's, the one for SART has a big emblem on it saying SART. And yeah, that's for the region for disaster. Thank you.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We still have the same arrangement with Orange. Can you just elaborate on that?
Yeah, we provide Orange pretty much the same services Milford does, including access to our pet food bank. And in return, they give us $75,000 a year.
Alderman Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate everything you do. I've only heard positive things about your department. I'd just like to ask, have you been experiencing any difficulty with the construction at Silver Sands, or are you working with the state to make sure that you're able to still do your job and it's not any detrimental to the animals?
Well, so far, other than the slight detour, there's been no issues and all the dirt on the vehicles, but yeah, there's been no issues.
Any more questions for the animal control? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Good evening. You mentioned the $75,000 fee that Orange pays us. Are we still fueling up at their facility as well?
Are we, pardon, I missed that.
The fuel for your truck?
Yes, we are still filling up in Orange. One vehicle gets filled up there as per the agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any more questions for animal control? I think that does it. Thank you, Scott.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for all the good work you do. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Next account on the agenda is the Milford Arts Council, account number 4803, page 87.
Good evening, everyone. This has been kind of an interesting year for us. We've finished all of our renovations from the Good to Great grant. Everything came in on time, on budget. The only lasting issue is we have $1,250 remaining from that gift, and that will be going to new plantings in our garden at the council. We simply just ran out of good weather. So, and we're waiting for good weather now. So, this year, you can see from our metric sheets you have in front of you, I gave some rundowns, just as I did last year, of the numbers that we see at the council. Also wanted to note that we see an uptick in our out-of-town attendees at about 15 to 20%. Our new ticketing service has been able to track zip codes and new emails, so that's a wonderful, wonderful thing to see happen. We have a new marketing director. Just to kind of, well, let me finish some of the notes down here first. We do provide multiple ways of support for our business districts, our service and nonprofit groups, and the city of Milford, and I've listed some of those things that we work closely with. I've included some metrics on our two kind of districts that we deal with, the Greater New Haven area and Fairfield County. We sit and reside within New Haven County, but it's important to note that with our uptick coming from Fairfield County, that we have actually assimilated or become an affiliated member of Fairfield County's Arts Coalition. We still promote within the New Haven district, but we really see that this is going to help us grow and help downtown Milford as well. I've included some of the past events and also a copy of the map that was designed as part of the kiosk. And we asked Julie Nash to print us up some 11 by 17 copies of this map, and she included some city metrics on the back, and we've been adding these to the kiosk, and about 20 to 30 of those maps are taken every single week. So it's been also kind of good to see. I wanted to talk about the increase that we asked for. It was, we requested $75,000. I know last year we were cut just $500. And let me just get my thoughts together. I'm sorry, it was a long day today. I just got back from vacation. And I made notes on the way here. All right, so again, it's just important to note that in addition to the notes in front of you, the time that the MAC gives and my personal time that I give throughout the community, we would like to add that our involvement in community development is an important role because our financial success is perfectly aligned with the economic growth and success of our city and our business districts. The need of new funds, this is not to be said that it will be simply swallowed by our budget, but my goal this year is to actually grow and expand our budget across the board. Meaning our board is actively trying to fundraise. This year we saw a new sponsor come on board for $2,500 for our music program, which infused a higher quality of performers, which helped us to sell out. We also received a grant from Subway for $3,000 towards paid ads and printing of posters for our new kiosk and playbill poster cases that were part of the Good to Great grant. So the need for additional city aid will be going directly to our need for more staff hours and more staff. Everybody working at the Arts Council is part-time. Our part-time business/marketing manager went back into semi-retirement and just took over the business aspect as a bookkeeper. We simply split his hours and hired a marketing director for 15 hours a week. And our marketing director has actual marketing experience, and through that, since her arrival on January 1st, almost every event has sold out. Our social media exposure has exploded. And while we continue to serve the New Haven region, again, I said we now have an affiliated membership with Fairfield County that will help drive more visitors to Milford. And because of our growing exposure, we are also partnering with a new community theater coalition, Fairfield County-based, and the Coastal Art Guild, which is centered in Stratford. So again, across the board, because of the added exposure with our Good to Great, our improvements, people are loving the new space. With the investment in our music program through sponsorship and the grant with Subway, Lori's experience as our marketing director, and the fact that we've been able to sell out most of our programming since January, we're expanding the budget, as I said, across the board. So our programming, I'm actually upping the expectations to reflect what we've been seeing in the past few months. So with that, I guess if there are any questions.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Director Page. First of all, I'd like to say I've been to many, many shows recently, and they've all been fantastic. You guys have been doing a really, really good job over there. You guys have been working hard. And yes, they're all sold out, and there are a lot of people there, and everybody seems to really, really enjoy it. So I encourage the board to get there, and certainly the city of Milford. Can you expand or explain maybe the impact for Milford when you get a lot of people coming, especially from out of town? the economic impact to downtown?
Correct. So one of the sheets, as I said, that I added in this is this metric here, and this is shown across the board as being kind of the expectations from the arts in a business district. The average person spends between around $25. So Lori, one of the things that she did was she created what she called a MAC experience, and she purposefully went out and partnered with 2 businesses in the downtown area surrounding one of our events and created a theme. So as example, we did the Bossa Nova project, which was a Sunday afternoon concert, and we sold out. She started the afternoon at 3 o'clock at Galina's, which she also works there part-time. Galina's is typically closed on Sunday. She opened up the doors, had 30 people who were coming to the concert arrive for some spiked cocoa and raffle prizes and discounts, and sold over $400 worth of merchandise. She brought those 30 people up to the council, where an additional 50 people were waiting. The concert got out, and 65 people went to El Barrio's for dinner. El Barrio's is very small. They basically sold the entire place out. Spent a lot of money. David gave them 25% off the entire bill. The band was also given dinner for free, and the band brought their instruments and gave an impromptu concert right there in the restaurant. We got huge feedback from people. We did our second one recently with the Howland Brothers. We partnered with Eli's for bourbon specials, happy hour, and then brought them up to the council for a very simple barbecue dinner. And that event was sold out as well. So we're trying to expand the whole experience, and again, to reach out to our downtown businesses and restaurants to show them the value of supporting the Arts Council.
Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Paige. As before, I am one of the erstwhile liaisons to the Arts Council. That sometimes the scheduling doesn't always jive, but I am probably unrivaled in my stated admiration for you and what you've been able to do, and all of the great volunteers and other people involved with the Milford Arts Council. It's gone to a level of professionalism and just creative interest that I don't think many other organizations in the state can match. You were just talking about some prime examples of why the arts are such an important part of our quality of life, as important as any other department. And yours is a granted agency, and I realize that you need to do a lot of fundraising yourself, and that's another testament, I think, to your success as our director. You combine not only those organizational skills and the community development skills, but also as an artist, you have an appreciation for that, which is rare to find that combination. So I want to commend you particularly, and everyone else involved with Milford Arts Council. One of the other things you had recently, and I was invited to attend, is the discussions with regard to the Firehouse Gallery and our Arts Council West, for lack of a better term, our outlet or whatever you call it, branch office. Can you maybe just give a quick summary as far as, and I know you've had some meetings since I was there last. I was privileged to be at a few of them with our new marketing manager, but could you give us a little update on where that all stands and what direction that's been taking?
Yes. So the Firehouse Gallery came into fruition, I think it was 2004. It is a city-owned building, and we have an apartment with a young couple living upstairs who are both artists. She's a dancer and a dance instructor, and he plays the guitar and is a farmer. The downstairs space is a gallery, which has 8 themed shows every single year. And because of the attention that had to be given to the center downtown, because of the damage and then the Good to Great program, grant and renovations, it was time to kind of look over to the other side and really assess the impact that the building and the use of the building was having to the community, and it wasn't a very strong one. The theme shows are wonderful, but they're basically opening receptions that are attended by maybe 40 to 80 people, and the same, I would say, 40 to 60 artists exhibit in each of these exhibitions. So again, the impact was not great. The hours are run completely by volunteers, and it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday 12 to 4, which again are not great hours. And oftentimes, if a volunteer can't go, the space remains closed. So our belief is that we were given that space to be impactful to the neighborhood. So I felt it was important to reach back and kind of assess its use and to get some interaction and oversight from an array of people. So Frank was invited. We had Paul Smith, who at that time was the chair of the Walnut Beach Resident Association, Susan Patrick, and Meg Giannotti, who have been chairs of the Walnut Beach Arts and Business District, a couple of residents, the woman who volunteers as curator for the space, and Lori, our new marketing director, myself, a local artist who we just finished up a exhibit of his work, and to talk about its use. So it went around a lot of circles. We have a lot of things to think about, and it was really important to us to not change it so drastically that the people, the local people who have really been utilizing it, feel that they've been pushed out of the way, which was a little bit of some anger and frustration at the table. So those things being said, what our plan now is to focus on the outside of the building. We just had a block grant last year to do some repairs to the facade. We were getting a lot of influx of water, which I'm very familiar with the water influx at the center. And now we need to find some money to paint and hopefully have a mural done on one side of the building. And we're working with this local artist who does kind of more urban art to be doing that. So as far as the inside use, what we're going to do is kind of mesh the direction where we think we want to go with what's happening now. So we're going to shorten the length of the exhibits and focus having their opening receptions on the third Thursdays, which is important to be open during that third Thursday business stroll. And then there'll maybe 3 weeks in between exhibitions where we could have a visiting artist come for a week or two and give demonstrations and perhaps have a private showing of their work. So I think that's the direction where we're going to take it for the coming year and kind of see where it goes.
Thank you, Paige.
Any more questions pertaining to the Milford Arts Council? Seeing none, thank you, Paige.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the great work you're doing over there. Next account on the agenda is account number 4812, Transit District, page 89.
Good evening. My name is Henry Jadek. I'm the Executive Director of the Milford Transit District. I think you all have a pretty good idea what we do. We've done some things we probably don't know. When the original grant to refurbish the Arts Center was done by the Transit District through a transportation money of all things. So we do a little bit more than just the standard pick them up, drop them off, or park them at the train station. I'd be happy to, and we're very, very thankful for the support the city gives. It's going to be critical, especially this year. Because the state of Connecticut, as you know, is having a few financial problems, and the Special Transportation Fund is not funded properly for the upcoming year and for the near future. So if some mechanism isn't put into place by the legislature during this session, we'll be looking at some difficult times throughout the state as far as public transportation goes. So one of the things they do look at is the city's contributions, the cities that do contribute, and hopefully that will make some difference into how we're treated if that fund is not replenished. Otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Good evening, Henry.
Hi.
Just a question. Those bike storage containers, how are they being fully utilized at the train station?
They're not 100%, but they're certainly being used. Different days, I'd see between 2 and 10 lockers used. And I suspect that with the better weather, that'll increase.
So that's first come, first serve, right? There's no reservation?
Yeah, I don't need any more lists. First come, first serve. The way it's constructed is that there's a way to put your own lock on it. The only thing we don't want to have somebody use it as a storage container, so we try to keep an eye on it so that we may have to put some signage up, we'll see. But so far, it seems to be working very well.
That would be my concern, that somebody would kind of move in there permanently with storage or move in there.
Well, there are holes on the side, so some weather can get in, so it wouldn't be that comfortable, but yeah, we're gonna keep an eye on it so that hopefully doesn't happen.
Thank you.
Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Henry, my annual question. How do the proposed cuts affect what you intend to do with bus shelters?
Your bus shelter question, I prepared for that this year. There will be a shelter in front of the Stop and Shop within the near future. And actually, it won't even be one that's going to be built by Milford Transit, because we had a shelter grant that was closed out. We'd have to resurrect another one. And Bridgeport Transit had an open grant for shelters that wasn't fully utilized. And since they operate the Coastal Link along with Milford Transit and Norwalk Transit, they serviced that spot. So it was legitimate enough for them to do the engineering, and we're going to be putting a shelter there through them, hopefully within the next month or two.
Thank you. I'm glad to know that. For the benefit of everybody else, we're talking about East Town Road, where you might see how people are sitting or standing now, and we wanted to have that addressed. And the shelter on South Broad in front of Webster Bank, is that something that we could tackle?
Well, for the time being, we're just kind of trying to keep it together. Both of those shelters have some very serious structural problems. I don't think they're going to fall over tomorrow, but they've been there for, I believe, over 35 years. And that's well over what we call their useful life. And it's beginning to show where paint and some repairs aren't going to do it. My intentions are to have those two shelters replaced, and that again is going to depend. There's plenty of federal money to do it, but it depends on the state of Connecticut and because they have to contribute 20% if what their capital budgets are going to look like in the next budget year. And if they do support it, I made a strong case to replace them. We'll get together with someone in the community to try to make them look like what they want to look like, something not prefabbed or something that fits in down there, like those shelters did when they were first erected.
I think one took a hit and is worth taking a...
Yeah, we're going to try to make the roofs with some maintenance without spending too much money to make them appear a little better, but they need to come down.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Henry, what is the overall budget for the transit?
Operating budget's approximately $2.1 million. Our capital budget fluctuates. This year was rather high because we just received 3 new vans that came on the road. That was approximately $200,000. And we received 3 new 40-foot New Flyer buses that cost 10 times what my first house cost in 1975 for each bus. So that was $1.35 million for those 3 buses. So this year it's going to be closer to $2 million. Normally it ranges between $300,000 and $500,000 for different items.
One follow-up, what's the number of passengers that use it on an annual basis?
The van services for the ADA service and the elderly service, that's around 50,000 trips a year. The fixed route service, which includes the Milford local services and the service that goes from Milford to Norwalk that is done by Bridgeport, Milford, and Norwalk Transit together, will total those two would be about 300,000 rides a year.
Any more questions for the Milford Transit? Alderman Gorman.
One more follow-up. And what kind of advertising revenue do you earn on, from Carter Mario?
Past year was about $40,000. It's a necessary evil. I stayed away from it for as many years as I could, but it came to the point where you just couldn't look away from it. I really don't like it at all, but what are you going to do?
Any more questions for Milford Transit? I think that's it. Henry, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation as well. The next account on the agenda this evening is account number 4811, Borough of Woodmont, page 88.
Good evening. Good to be here again. Can't believe it's been another year. I'm Ed Bonessi. I'm the warden in the Borough of Woodmont. My predecessor and I always like to tell everybody Woodmont is another little municipality. We are not a beach association. We do the public works for the 6 miles of roadway that encompass Woodmont, snow plowing, street paving, so on and so forth. Be happy to answer any questions. I just sent out our latest balance sheet and our BR1 for the budget request.
Anyone having any questions for the Borough of Woodmont? Wow. I think you're all set there, Ed.
Wow.
You have a quiet evening. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. I'll get to see the Mets. Good night, everybody. And thank you for everything that you do, because our group gets paid just as well as yours. I do. I get a lot more. I get $1, but the board, they get 0. So thank you.
All right, the next account on the agenda this evening is account number 4420, Public Works. Public Works Office. I just want to remind all the aldermen, this particular department this evening has 7 divisions this evening. When you ask your questions, please stay to the division that we're on so the secretary can get all the information on that particular account. I appreciate it.
Good evening, everyone. Chris Saley, Public Works Director, Steve Johnson, the Acting Assistant Public Works Director. Any questions on the Public Works Office?
Alderman Smith.
Yeah, good evening, Chris. Good evening, Steve. When did you get to be the Assistant Public Works Director? I didn't know this. Acting, excuse me.
Yeah, acting as of last July 1st.
Congratulations.
Any more questions pertaining to the Public Works Office? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. How are you, Mr. Saley?
Good, Alderman Giannattasio. How are you today?
Good. So the Public Works Office, can you share with us how many people that is comprised of?
Sure. We have my administrative assistant, we have 2 clerk A's, and we have the Assistant Public Works Director's position. So there's 5 positions altogether.
Is there any other positions that you're requesting to be filled in your office, or are you good with the status quo?
We're comfortable with the status quo.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions pertaining to the Public Works Office? Alderman Gorman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Director, is that Clerk A filled, the second one? I wasn't aware of that.
At the present time, we have a seasonal temporary filling that position, but we anticipate the mayor, we've just filled the administrative assistant's position, and that person will be they've stepped up to fill the administrative assistant position on a temporary basis. They're going to be stepping down, and then that seasonal person will be going away, and then we'll be fully staffed.
Thank you.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Mr. Saley, and
Good evening, Alderman Vitale.
how are you?
Good.
On page, or not page, but account 4420, Public Works Office, Clerk, and all of that, those numbers that represent about a $33,000 cut. I would imagine that's again in that step, in the steps that we're not going to top step, we're going the first step with hirees. I see a 33%, a $33,000. You see where I'm talking?
Which account is it?
64,
64?
under budgeted positions. I'm assuming that since we're dealing with that in all the other departments, is that $33,000 cut due to the step adjustments? I guess.
I'm just trying to find
No
out what
question on the
line you're
floor.
on. Clerk A?
I just said 64.
Yeah, I'm on 64. What line?
There's a position totals of 390, 398, and it
yes.
was cut back 33,000. I'm just assuming, is that the step adjustments? Maybe our finance director can answer that simply.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, those are step adjustments because they, at the time the Board of Finance approved the budget, the positions were vacant.
Thank you.
Any more questions pertaining to the Public Works Office? Alderman Beatty.
Thank you. There was no contention. I just didn't know where you were referring to, and we weren't following, and it just went fast. Sometimes, that's all. You said the number of the account, so we were trying to follow along with the discussion. That was all. Sometimes we need clarification. Sometimes we need
I did say page 64.
I know you did, and I couldn't see it. Thanks for helping.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Director Saley. Mr. Saley, just to be clear, I know you mentioned the positions in the office. Are any of these positions on 64 presently vacant? Or are they all active positions?
The present positions I have in the present budget are filled. As you can see, there's a office support specialist. So it was a former Clerk A. It's actually a step up in that position, which is not in the budget for presently, but will be in the budget for July 1st. We anticipate one of the Clerk A's stepping into that position.
Okay, so it's vacant just for now, but it will be filled shortly.
Technically, it's not vacant now because we don't have it. When the new year starts July 1st, we anticipate one of those Clerk A's applying for that position.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Any more questions? Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see. My question is, we have in the budget here for your Assistant Director of Public Works, but right now you have an acting Assistant Public Works Director. I mean, when are you going to make that position, you know, not an acting position, but, you know, a regular full-time position?
We anticipate doing that in the next 6 months.
Okay, any reason why it would take 6 months to change that?
Part of the issue is that the Human Resources Department is behind in filling positions, and it's not a critical position because we have an acting person filling the job and doing an exceptional job at it. We're trying to fill, believe it or not, custodian positions, maintainers positions, truck drivers positions, I'm talking on my end. But when there was the hiring freeze last January, there was, we stopped hiring when people retired, so there was a drawback, and now we're trying to fill the positions as people have left, so we've been vacant for a while. So the priority positions that we need, wastewater, those are what we're filling right now. And it takes a decent amount of paperwork to advertise, interview, go through the process.
Okay, so within 6 months, we won't have an actor, we'll have
That's
a
our
regular,
goal.
okay.
Yes, sir, Alderman
Thank you.
Beccarelli.
Alderman Smith.
Just to clarify again, and I apologize, Steve, because I wasn't at the hearing on the open space. Are you still our open space director?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I mean, I'm encouraged to know that you're also acting public works. I know you know a great deal about that, but I just was, I must have missed this very important information somewhere. Excuse me.
I apologize for not
That's
getting it
all right.
out to you. There's a lot of synergies between the open space in Steve's position and actually Public Works, and we've worked really well together. Steve has taken a huge role on with the CDBG projects in regards to the paperwork. Anyone that knows me knows it's not my strong suit, and Steve has definitely taken a big leadership role on working with not only the Department of Housing, DEEP, but also the contractors that we've hired to do a lot of this work.
It's great. Thank you, Ms. Saley. Thanks, Steve.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going back to the concept of open space and Assistant City Director of Public Works, is there any consideration of job description and melding this job description so the assistant, if Steve, I know Steve does a fantastic job. If Steve were to get that job, and I wouldn't imagine he should, is there any way of melding that job description with open space so that right now it creates a one-man department in open space? So I think it would be more viable to have the assistant public works director become that open space manager and under that job description to incorporate that.
Well, I know there's certain individuals that don't believe that we need a defined open space person, and I strongly disagree with that. What I would agree with, it might make sense to bring that position under the Public Works Department, because I think again, there's synergies. But Steve right now is the amount of hours he's putting in for these two jobs, I mean, I tell it to the mayor all the time. I know the mayor's well aware of it, and the mayor appreciates it, and I hope the aldermen appreciate how many hours Steve puts in, not only for open space, but for the assistant director, but also the volunteering for the open space. That's beyond his work. So
I would just like to see a job description created that would encompass both positions and have that one position. I mean, it's viable. If it's doable, I think you guys are the ones that know whether it's doable or not, but I would imagine that would be a perfect fit because of his knowledge and what he's getting into, what Steve's getting into with the Assistant Public Works Director. So I look at it as a good fit, so thank you.
I'm not disagreeing that putting it under the Public Works Department would be good, but Alderman Vitale, I would strongly disagree with you in the sense of the amount of work. The average person is not going to put the hours in that Steve Johnson puts in. They're just not. He probably puts in 80 hours a week easily. So it's really a two-person. He's doing the city a huge favor at the present time by filling in those positions. And I'd be more than happy to go over the open space when we have more time and the amount of work that's getting done. We were at Morningside today looking at trying to restore vegetation that works with our department, but it's been, invasives in there for 20 years, and we're looking at some areas. But that's one of many areas, and that's one aspects of what Steve does every day.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I just wanted to make a comment and maybe ask Steve, is your intention to go back to open space if this Assistant Director Public Works position is filled, or are you seeking that position, or are you just, you don't know?
Well, I think the goal when Chris approached me and the mayor was to seek out some of the synergies and to see what, because there was a lot of overlap. And there's an opportunity to work proactively with Public Works in this capacity that I'm doing now. And so I think it really, there's a steep learning curve coming in to the acting position that I'm doing now, working with Chris, and I think it's important that we have an opportunity going forward to kind of step back and revisit what it is that needs to be accomplished on behalf of the city through Public Works, looking at the benefits of the open space opportunities for managing those, and also looking for, you know, grants and other things. So I think we're going to need to take a step back and take a look at what we've accomplished together, what we can do going forward, and making sure it's a good fit for the city above all, and making sure it's a good fit, you know, for me personally. But I've enjoyed the challenge, and you know, I'm continuing to look forward to doing the very best I can.
Thank you. Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you stepping up and helping us get through this period of time. I just wanted to know what your intentions were, you know, personally. I know that you've done a fine job on both sides of the aisle. I just want to back up just to address what Director Saley said. Originally, this position, the open space position, we've always felt there was a need for it. We just had a disagreement on how it was being funded. And when the mayor decided to put it into the budget and this body voted on doing that, the other issue that came up was setting it up as a separate department. At that time, we thought that it would be best served to be under Public Works. So I just find it, you know, kind of unusual that you happen to be in agreement with that, because sitting on this side of the aisle, that was our intent all along, to keep it under Public Works, not to separate it out. So maybe, you know, moving forward with, you know, what we're doing now, it could be included with your department. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Alderman Beatty.
Hi. I'd like some clarification on this, because when I was first elected, I was impressed with the fact that there is a full-time open space person. And I asked the mayor, and that is not the history that I was told, and I'm sure he was being truthful and remembered well. I thought, my understanding is that the entire focus was to get an open space manager position. Now, the fact that there's synergy between the Department of Works and that, and I know that there's reciprocity that has enhanced both, but that doesn't mean that the open space position was designed to be within Public Works. And this is one time where I'm going to say a little bit, focus on myself. I know a little bit about this in organizational development instructions. And what often happens is you have a very good person. Who are we going to do for affirmative action 20 years ago? And they got a good person, their best paid person in HR, but then that stopped that particular office, which is now called Equity, the Equity Office, from developing in a way, because it was limited to the human power hours that one person can do. If you look at the history of organizations, you'll see why food service is under police, or the dog pound is under police, and that's because of personnel matters. But that doesn't mean that would be designed that way. And I specifically, before I went about our working relationship in relation to First District and Eisenhower Park and the trees and the projects, and how good you were for Public Works, and how good that synergy was to ask specifically about the history so that I could focus right. And Tony, Alderman MGAT, I know you're sincere, but I was told, and I think I saw it on paper, that was a fight to get that position in a time of austerity, and it was supposed to be a separate position. Now, if that's not true, we can revisit it, but the fact that it fits well under Public Works for particular projects to make them more conservation, environmental, and all of that, doesn't mean that it should be subsumed under Public Works, because I'm afraid the focus would be lost and the funding. Not that you two individuals would do that, but on an organizational chart. And if you look back, I could give you a lot of information about that, and that's how it happens. Anyway, enough said. So it's not the individual players I'm arguing with, but about the accuracy of how it was developed.
Alderman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to kind of continue in that vein, because I think it's very important. Steve Johnson, as our open space manager, has done an exceptional job over the years, and I've always applauded the idea to institute that office. And I also understand, as effective a leader as Steve is, and all the time he gives of himself, both to open space and public works matters and city matters, he is an excellent candidate for either of those positions. But is there not, Steve, a distinction in having a separate office? Because I understand Alderman Vitale and Alderman Ginatasio's point that perhaps it'd be subsumed, but we've argued this before, and open space needs a certain amount of autonomy. Technically, you were reporting only to the mayor, as I understand it, and there's a jurisdictional reason for that. Could you help me with that?
Well, that's correct. And I think one of the reasons that I did accept this challenge is Chris and I had developed a working relationship, and one that I felt that I could continue to be an advocate and a champion for open spaces. And it was an opportunity of being a voice at the table that in a proactive role as opposed to a reactive role through the public works aspect. And so I think with that, it's been beneficial. Certainly, I think going back to, I think it's important to revisit what the goals and the needs and requirements are for both positions. It has been a significant amount of work, but there is a significant amount of overlap. And so having that opportunity to work cooperatively with Chris, balance those needs with the city, along with the needs from that the mayor receives. So we try to be responsive to both. So.
And Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Just to add to this, and I don't mean to belabor it, but I think we're getting into the trap of bureaucracy and the silos that a lot of municipalities and states and federal government agencies have, where there is a defined role and there's not a lot of interconnected work that those different departments engage in. In Milford, we may be unique that our different departments work fairly seamlessly with one another. They support each other. A lot of their work, they do to help out. The fire helps out the public works, and the public works helps out the police department, etc. And it is one team effort, not a whole bunch of different departments working for individual goals or individual departmental goals, but where each of our departments cross over and they work for the goals of the city.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any more questions pertaining to Public Works Office? Alderman Ginatacio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you, to Mayor Blake. Mayor Blake, the unique setup we have before us, though, is, in essence, Mr. Johnson has two bosses. From the open space arena, he answers to you, and from Public Works, he answers to Director Saley. So he's probably maybe one of the only employees in the city that has two bosses at this time. So, he's been infused to this position. But I know the intent is well, it's all for the good. Just to get back to Alderman Beatty's point, Mr. Johnson, we always had an open space manager. We just disagreed on how it was being funded. Originally, it wasn't being funded throughout the budget, through taxpayer money. It was being funded through the open space account. And we created another job, and it's being funded differently now. That's where the disagreement was. We never questioned, the position, just for a point of clarification. Thank you.
Any more questions regarding Public Works Office?
And Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Giantassio, I have 55,000 bosses, and we're doing what we can to make sure all of them are happy.
Office and we'll open up another account, 4421 Highway and Parks, page 65 and 68.
If I could, I'd like to just give a little overview of Parks and Highway with Richie Tomasco is our highway foreman and Tom Hunt is our parks foreman, and the amount of work that both divisions do. And they do it working together in a combined effort. Very proud of both individuals and the employees that work underneath them. From Founders Walk to now working up at Eisenhower and doing a major project in-house with working with some subcontractors. But I just wanted to express to the board how lucky this board and the city is to have the employees that they have in that division.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions pertaining to Highway Parks? Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Director Saley. I know there are many projects going on in the city, but there are two major projects that I look at as being major projects. One is the pickleball court and water park at Eisenhower. Could you tell us how things are progressing, status, and maybe estimated time of completion, and I'll get into the other project?
Sure. So we're a little behind on those projects, and it's predominantly my fault for being behind. I wanted to be up and running by April 1st, but we ran into a few snags. But presently, cautiously, we're optimistically looking at being opened ready sometime mid-June. But our date really is July 4th. That's the weekend we'd like to get in. Right now, we'll be pouring. This is really a true design in the field, working with a lot of different individuals within the city and the employees in the city. We went out to bid for the pickleball court. A local company was the low bidder, and they have started to do preliminary work. Our department has done a tremendous amount of site work up there. Our sidewalk contractor, Edo Construction, has partnered with the city in regards to building one of the walls that was required because of the grade differentials between where the tennis courts are and where the pickleball court's going to be. We're very excited. I know most people that come are very excited about the two different projects. I'm personally not a pickleball player, but it's very well received, and there's a lot of people that really enjoy it. Actually, I'm looking forward to trying the game. As I get a little older, I'm not as fast as I once was. I'd like to try it. I don't know about you, Alderman Vitale.
Make it hurt, so you may be out on comp, so just take it easy. The other project that I'm well aware of, and you know it's coming along great, is the dredging of the three ponds, and the new walls that are going up on the north pond or the upper pond. It's really coming together, and aesthetically, it's really adding a lot to that area and to the city. My only concern is, I don't know, but I think they might be completed behind City Hall. But the question would be, is there going to be, I know they refurbished some of the wall on the streets on West River. I was wondering if the other walls, were they going to be adjusted or completed, or is it going to stay helter-skelter like they look? Are they going to be more of a wall or a containing wall?
So you're mentioning the City Hall pond. The City Hall pond, the scope of work required them to repoint along West River over to the side where the railing system is. On the other side, they were just going to realign the boulders. Mayor Blake has asked me to look into having it built similar to what they're doing up on the North Pond. Historically, it was really a boulder wall. It was never a masonry wall on that side of the City Hall pond. But Mayor Blake has asked me, and I've got in contact with the contractor, and we're working out some numbers to see if we can get that done. One of the issues was we have the fishing derby coming on May 5th, so our timeline with that was impossible to get that done, and also try to get the North Pond as opened as possible. Steve Johnson spoke with the contractor today, and so did I. So the City Hall pond will be open 100%. The North Pond, his goal, unless we get 2 weeks worth of rain, will be to have 2/3 of that pond open and accessible. It will not be seeded. It'll be a little mucky, but they're gonna come down once they're done and reseed, regrade, and reseed everything. But anyone that's seen the wall, it's very impressive. They've done a lot of work over there. There's gonna be a 3-inch concrete cap that's continuously along the wall. That's one of the adjustments we made with the contractor. And I think when we're done, the project, the contractor, Millennium, has done a very nice job. We still have to sit down with this board and discuss. We have a decent amount of material down at Plains Road that we have to discuss on how we're gonna finally dispose of it. So we have a few options, but that's something that will happen down the road.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chair. The stone behind City Hall just seems helter-skelter. Doesn't look like it's creating a wall effect over there. So I would say that, you know, if the numbers work out and that they can create a wall there, that would be really, really nice, and it would be more protective, I think, too. So.
And I remember when we went through this whole, where we were gonna put the dredging material, Alderman Genatasio was strongly in belief of getting rid of it off the city property, so it's something we'll come back before the board and ask them their opinion on it and what they'd like to do. We've got some initial quotes on where to get rid of some of the material. It's not severely polluted, but there's some contaminants in it. It's above the residential use, but below the commercial use, but it's still an area that we have some concern with for the material. And the wall itself the wall at City Hall that's what it historically was like. It was a boulder wall. From what I understand, I wasn't around back then, but it was not a masonry wall like the rest of the park.
Coming out really well, and down by Stonebridge, it looks excellent down there, too. So
Yeah.
I think Richie's happy about that, too, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think the contractor did an excellent job. They minimized the impact on Stonebridge. They minimized the impact on the city. It was very diligent, so we're very happy with that outcome.
Any more questions pertaining, Alderman Gurman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to Director Saley. So down at the Stonebridge Pond, that wall up against Stonebridge, is anything gonna happen with that, with all the mesh wiring, and is that gonna get refinished, or is that?
That will be just the way it is. It's technically, I believe, Stonebridge's wall, but I'm not 100% positive. But there was nothing in the bid specs. The ponds that we were concerned with was the North Pond, which had the historic wall around it, and this pond, which had the wall along the road. And that's where the repairs were gonna be done.
So is that his responsibility if he's gonna do something, or can he not even do anything with either deep or?
He would have to get approvals to go in there and do that kind of work. Thank you.
Or Steve, do you want to expand on that?
Alderman Genatasio. Gorman?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. Alderman Genatasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Director Saley, on the highway parks positions, all these positions that are budgeted, are they all filled positions? And if not, which ones are vacant?
Presently, I believe we have 4 positions that are vacant. One is a maintainer. One is a truck driver laborer. I think there's a sweeper operator. And then actually there's 2 maintainers. So that would be the
Just to
4.
follow up, is this something that you're looking to fill these positions as of how soon? July?
As I spoke before, we're looking to get the critical positions, which, believe it or not, right now are custodial support staff in the city and also wastewater. And once they're filled to the level that we deem is appropriate, then we'll look at these positions. But we anticipate filling, I wouldn't say all of them, but I would say we would fill a substantial amount.
Is there any stress on this department with these 4 positions not being filled?
I would think there's stress on our whole department, but our team is working very hard. And I know we get a black eye a few times, but they work very, very hard to try to support the citizens of Milford, from the Little League that asked for things to be done, to the senior center, to we were at the dog kennel, dog control today. So we're out there trying to work as best we can under the circumstances, and I think they do a great job, but everyone could use more people, so.
And just to clarify, you said the positions that are open right now, one is a truck driver, and what were the other 3?
I believe it's 2 maintainers, and I believe it's a sweeper operator, but let me just confirm that. Let me get back to you on that, Alderman Genatasio.
Okay, thank you.
We also have a number of people in that division that are out on workers' comp. It's a very manual position, so we have I wouldn't say a lot, but we have people that sometimes get injured.
Alderman Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Good evening.
I have well, it's a question that may concern account number 49890000, miscellaneous equipment. Also 44650000, beach area upkeep. Who knows, there might even be another area, but my question is, and then down at Walnut Beach, the grills were removed from the, kind of the parking area, but in the beach, they were in the beach area. And while the city allows for those grills to be there, and they were for the cooking of, food and so forth, I noticed that all of them are now missing. I asked the Recreation Department if they knew anything about it. They said that they didn't, but they would be contacting your department to see if you maybe know where they were. So my question to you is, do you know where those grills went, and did you take them down?
I'm not aware that we took them down. Do you recall, Alderman Vecchiarelli, when they were last there? Because I know they were there a long time ago. I don't recall them in the last few years, though.
Well, I gotta think that they were down there at least, I would say last year.
Okay.
So I was kind of surprised to see not one, but all of them removed, because, the people, they put their briquettes in there, and, they have their little barbecue, and I thought it was a nice thing for the, the beachgoers to have down there. So, realizing that they're no longer down there, and somebody took them out. So you have two accounts here for beach area upkeep and also for miscellaneous equipment. And I'm wondering, has there been any thought from you on replacing these and using those accounts?
I'm more than happy to talk with Paul Piscitelli and yourself, and we can get them put back in. I know I'm sounding naive here, but I thought there was no barbecuing allowed on that beach, though. Is that correct, or am I wrong on that?
You're wrong.
Okay.
So, yeah, you might want to, if you could, you can, check in with Paul and let me know, because I know you have some monies here earmarked for those areas, and maybe if we can't find them, then we could put some back.
How many would you like to see, Alderman?
Well, I think there was probably like around 5 of them down there. But, you can probably figure out where to best put them. But it was nice to have them down there. And, like anything else, it's when things go by the wayside, trying to claw your way back is not always easy. So I would like to see them back down there for the people. Thank you.
No problem.
Any more questions pertaining to parks? Seeing none, we'll go on to the next department, number 4423, building maintenance. Questions regarding building maintenance? Seeing none, we'll move on to Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, to Director Saley, you mentioned custodians. How many custodians in building maintenance these positions are you looking to fill, or how many are open?
Sure. I knew someone was going to ask the question, so I just got to get to the paperwork part of it. So presently, we have 5 custodians and 1 night supervisor, which in turn, we're taking one of the custodians and putting them in, so it's really 6 custodians that were vacant, along with a number of people that are out on either light duty or out totally because of injuries occurring at work.
Is there any other positions other than that that need to be filled, or is everyone else, every other position is being filled currently?
Well, that's 6 positions. I think it's a pretty substantial amount. We have, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 3 at night and 3 during the day for custodial services. We are anticipating, we went out, this is one of the examples, we went out, I think we had close to 85 applicants. We've whittled that down to 20. They're going to be interviewing 20 people, and then we'll select from those 5 or 6 individuals.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, what's the time frame on the light duty status of some of these workers? Is that eventually, are they going to come back full duty?
Our goal is always to get people back for full duty, but it could take a number of months to almost a year to get somebody off light duty at times.
And in the meantime, how do you work around that? Are you at liberty to?
Yeah, no, we have, if they have a medical restriction, if we can accommodate that medical restriction, we do. There's a number of times that we can do that. Sometimes it's not possible because we have no work for it. It could be as simple as picking up a phone. Right now, we've put some light duty people. We built a small little shed at the transfer station, and we're gonna have an individual there checking licenses. We've had a number of complaints where people have pulled in and dumped and they weren't Milford residents. So we're gonna try to alleviate some of those issues by having this light duty person there. That's one position.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Director Saley. What's your thoughts on outsourcing our custodians? When you're looking at the pay, when you're looking at benefits, when you're looking at workman's comp?
I'm sure we always look, the mayor and I, when we discuss what is in the best interest of the city, we look at all different avenues. There's definitely a potential for that, but I would prefer to look at making us more efficient at the present time. I'm not a strong believer in laying people off, and that's what would happen if we were doing something at that division. So anything is possible. I know other towns and other businesses have done outsourcing. There's pluses and minuses with all of it. But you are correct, our cost basis for our employees are not cheap. We have a very good benefit package here, and we pay our employees fairly. I wouldn't say excessively. But I think what we get in return, I think a lot of people don't understand what happens between all the bathrooms that get cleaned every single weekend, at nights, all the ball field bathrooms, all the miscellaneous things that happen. So building maintenance, custodial staff, they kind of jump on it everywhere. So when we have a snowstorm, they're out shoveling walks. That's the redundancy that I appreciate in the city, that you can't cut everything down to the bare minimum. And I think it would be a mistake to look at that at the present time.
Thank you. And then just one follow-up, Mr. Chairman. The electricity account for $650,000, what does that pertain to exactly?
That's everything that we use for electricity except for wastewater. Wastewater is on a separate account. And it's interesting because
it's not street lighting.
I believe the mayor pays for that out of his account. So that's all the buildings, all the pool, the Parsons, this City Hall right here. And if you look, actually, Mr. Moore from the superintendent of the building division gave me a year 2000 expenditure, and he wanted to show me where we stood. Obviously, wages have gone up, but predominantly every other account has gone down except for utilities. And in 2000, the electricity account was $410,000. So it's gone up over those last, 18 years, 17 and a half years.
Well, with all the efficiencies, LEDs and the heat pumps and things that we're implementing, shouldn't that be going down quite a bit?
In a perfect world, yes. When you take on a building the size of Simon Lake, that was predominantly with the Board of Education, outside of our cost component, a number of other buildings that came on board. And also, we seem to have more use in a lot of the buildings. Some of the buildings that used to get shut down earlier are no longer doing that. You have a lot of community involvement, especially at the Egan Center. The Egan Center is one of the buildings that you gave us. It's really run on a steam system, so there's a decent amount of expense there, and there's very little controls. You gave us money in the budget, bonded money, to look at that this spring and summer, so hopefully we're going to improve the output or the energy efficiency on that building. The other part of it is, and I know I think we're in 2 years of the 3-year payback. When we got a lot of these energy programs, we had a loan component that we were paying back, so that's tied into that. So even though there's some savings, the real savings will be probably next year and the following year. With that said, too, like the Orange Ave ball fields came on board. So there's a lot of equipment and areas that we've taken on in the last 10 years. So we've expanded our use or our reach.
Thank you.
Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, while we're in the building maintenance, it seems maybe a while back, I'm not sure how long ago, but I had asked the Public Works Committee to look in and ask you to try to clean out the, it's kind of like a food concession stand / bathrooms at Washington Field, because, you know, like basically as it sits now, it's warehousing stuff that belongs to you. And I don't think that's the place to store this stuff, because there are people that want to see that area functional so that they can serve soda and hot dogs and stuff. I mean, we have a premier ballpark down there. We've gotten rid of them all and made one premier that is, you know, that's the best one we got. And so now, you know, you go to a lot of these other towns, you know, you can get a soda, and some of them even give you alcohol, but, you know, to get a hamburger and hot dog and a soda and have the bathrooms operational, I don't, you know, I would like to see if you are storing like supplies and stuff for the building maintenance. I know that I've asked before to try to look into this, and so I'm asking again if maybe you can revisit that down there. If you need somewhere to put this stuff, you know, we can try to find something for you if you don't have another place. But if you do open that up, it's going to open up doors for us down there for the recreation of the people that are down there using that area. So if you can, amongst all the million other things you need to do, if you get the chance, if you could, you know, clean that out for the rec department to use, would be nice.
Alderman Vecchiarelli, I appreciate that, because that's one of the things honestly, we're looking to expand what the citizens of Milford have the opportunity to do. And it is truthfully an area that we'll look at, and we'll get that turned around. One of the things that we are a little concerned of down there, and probably one of the reasons why I'm not going to say we sat on it, but we've delayed it, is there is a lot of vandalism. So one of the things the mayor has talked about and we're working on is trying to get mobile hotspots where we can put some cameras up and have a little bit more control. But I agree with you. That building should be used for its appropriate use, and it shouldn't be used for storage.
Thank you very much.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to the director. 5th District, my district, our constituents have been getting a lot of questions on an eyesore in the center of town, and that would be the old Milford Diner building. Do we have any control over that? How is that working out? That has got to be the most egregious kind of piece in the city.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Vitro to Alderman Vitale, I have been in recent communication with the owner of that property as well as a neighbor who has made offers to fund any type of cleanup of that. From what I hear is that there is an individual or interested party in looking to remove that for its historical value. And from what I've been told within the last week, it is imminent. I don't know if that means a week or a month, but certainly I think that's approximately the period of time that it will take to, remove the Milford Diner. There were efforts several years ago to restore it to its former luster. I think everybody agrees that that is not going to happen because of the deterioration, but there is somebody interested in moving that historic diner somewhere else, and they are giving that individual the opportunity to do that. But things are in the works for something in the relatively near future.
Well, that's good to hear because there seems to be greater openings in the back, and I went past by it tonight, and there's gaping openings in the building, and I'm afraid that even though it might own, somebody else might own it, there must be a liability on the city too, no matter what you do. So it's good to hear that it's imminent that there's going to be a cleanup there anyway. So that's.
And just to dispel any concerns, it is a private building on private property. In no way, shape, or form is the city bear any liability that I could
that's a good
ever imagine.
Source, so I think we need to move.
Any more questions pertaining to building maintenance? Seeing none, the next account is going to be account number 4424, Engineering Department. And that's on page 72. Anyone having any questions regarding the Engineering Department? Alderman Genitazio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Director Saley. Again, with the positions in this department, are they all currently being filled?
There's one engineering technician that's vacant at the present time.
And what's the intent? Is it?
The intent is to fill that position and possibly change the job description to more of a clerk of the works / inspector.
Okay, and through you to the finance director, is that why it's listed at 49,728? Is that the finance board recommended? Is that the first step?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Genitazio, yes, that's the first step, the minimum step, and we had assumed the position was vacant at the time.
And just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, in order to change the description of the job, how is that going to be handled? Is that going to have to come before the ordinance committee?
Mr. Chairman, through you, it's a process. If it's a civil service position, which this is, if it's in a union, which this one is, it would have to go through the Civil Service Commission, it would have to go through the union, it would have to have the buy-in of the department head, and then ultimately it would go through the budget process, not the ordinance committee, but the budget process for you to reclassify it in the budget books for the next fiscal year. So it may or may not happen for this fiscal year, but it would come back to your board.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions regarding the Engineering Department? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next department, account number 4429, General Garage. Anyone having any questions regarding the General Garage on page 74? Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through the director. General Garage positions, all those positions are filled?
We just filled one of the positions, which was a mechanic's position, and then we're going to be moving. There's a working leader that's going to get moved, and it's going to be a parts fleet manager, fleet maintenance technician instead.
So other than that, they're all filled? They're all filled?
Yes, they will be all filled.
So is that one position on first step, or is this a representation of top step, this number, for that position?
I believe that's first step. Is it top step?
So therefore, it should be adjusted?
I don't believe so. I believe that, well,
Not too many positions start at top step, I don't know.
I'm not going to lie, I don't know the answer to that question right now.
We've seen step adjustments in all the other positions, and all of a sudden, this is not adjusted. And somebody's going to start off at top step, doesn't seem reasonable.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Alderman Vitale, at this time, the position is filled, so that is why it remains at the current maximum step. We have to keep in mind that if a position is filled internally, depending on the civil service rules, we don't necessarily have the option of going down to the minimum step in those cases, so.
And I
it
can
depends.
understand that if you do change positions, it's very difficult to make less than the position you're going to be going into. But that doesn't represent that they're going to go to top step, does it? Is it representative?
Well, the individual that's presently in that position is at top step. So that's, now that Mr. Ardisi explains that, I do recall that now. So he technically has the opportunity to apply for that position. And
If
because
that's
it's
true,
still-
then that answers the question. Thank you.
I apologize, I should have known that.
And Alderman Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I noticed that this year there's an increase in the software budget. I'm hoping that goes to improve technology. I'm just hoping you could elaborate a little bit about what that's going to be used for.
Yeah, I mean, all the departments, especially with the new software program that's coming in, we're always looking to upgrade, and part of it is new computers. Some of the computers that we have are pretty old. That's a hardware component, but also the GPS that we're looking at, we're trying to put money aside for that account.
Any more questions pertaining to the general garage? Seeing none, we'll open up under the next account, which is number 4431, solid waste, on page 76. Regarding account solid waste. Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Director Saley. The condo reimbursement, I think we talk about this almost every year and why we're still paying that, but I know why we're doing it, but can you explain why to the public? $500,000.
Yeah, I would leave that up to Peter and the mayor. I think that was a practice that was started many years ago because the condos felt that they were paying taxes, but I'll let them.
Mr. Chairman, your board and the ordinance committee adopted an ordinance many, many years ago before my time in Milford government that carves out, I believe, associations over 3 units so that they have private garbage collection. And to reimburse them for that, there's an ordinance which sets up a formula, and the condo association may seek the formula amount or the actual amount of garbage collection, whichever is less. And it's about a 50-50 split for which condo associations receive the formula amount, and about a 50-50 split between the condo associations which are provided the actual collection rate that they've negotiated on their own with a private collection agency. One of the things that we do enforce strictly is, in order to apply and be eligible for the condo reimbursement, whoever the hauler is that the private condo association hires, they have to be registered with the city. Their flow has to be calculated as part of the city's municipal solid waste.
Thank you.
Alderman Anderson, you had your hand up before? I did. Yes.
Thank you, sir. My question pertains to the transfer station. I wondered if you can detail where we stand with the operations there, and how the provider is working out, whether there's anything new that's being forecasted there.
I mean, yeah, there's a number of things we anticipate going out to bid for the transfer station to look at another provider or have an opportunity to be a competitive bid. The contract's expired. We're also looking to do some sort of swap shop up there. The amount of reusable materials that is getting thrown away is tremendous. And we need to carve out a spot. We're waiting for the potential to purchase the property next to the transfer station behind it, so there's some opportunities there through that acquisition of the land that we talked about many months ago. We would like to see us do more composting. We obviously, everyone here knows about the textiles. We've redone, and we started within the last year, recycling mattresses. One of the things that we're going to try to do, most people are probably unaware of it, but the commodities markets for the recycling has drastically changed. China has closed their markets, so presently we're getting paid $20 a ton. That contract is expiring as of July 1st. And right now, we're in negotiations with one of the vendors, but we will no longer be receiving money. We'll probably be paying money for the recycling. And part of that is when single stream was originally envisioned, I really don't think the individuals that did it thought the process through in the sense of the amount of contamination. So we're having a lot of broken glass, and broken glass gets into the mixed papers. And then the mixed paper or blended paper is not as valuable as before it was when it was separated, back in the days when they had newspaper by itself. So it's a big issue. And up in Hartford, I would hope that they would look at increasing the bottle bill to incentivize people to return bottles. I know that's a hot topic in the state. But the end for us municipalities, it's going to be a challenge.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Director Saley. I count 22 truck drivers, okay? And I see 2 of them, looks like they're at the first step. I'm assuming that they're not filled. And then there's one that's zeroed out. Can you just tell me how many truck drivers we have that are?
I believe through the contract, we're eliminating one position this year. That's probably the zeroed out one, but we do have 22 employees right now.
So we have 22 truck drivers. So all of these positions are currently filled except for the one that's zeroed out? Is that what I'm hearing?
Am I counting it wrong?
And 2 of them have the entry-level salary. Are they new hires?
We anticipate filling, yes, there's one position that's vacant presently, so we're going to fill one of those positions.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Fortunati.
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Sally. Do we know when the textile recycling program is going to start?
I believe it will start in the next 3 weeks.
Okay, and
That's
will
our goal.
residents get a notice, or it'll be
Yes,
public?
yes. There's the company that we've partnered with, they'll be advertising. We'll be advertising on our website, so we anticipate that going out shortly.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Saley. I look at our account 4790-9950, city waste removal cost. It looks like currently it's $1,910,000, almost $2 million. Now that's to remove all of the waste from the city transfer site, and is that inclusive of our 2 junk pickups, you know, so that's total, everything, right?
It is. That's the tipping fee. It's helping run the transfer station. It's transporting from Milford to Bridgeport, and the 2 bulk pickups. The 2 bulk pickups cost us, round numbers, about $100,000 each.
Okay, thank you. So I'm looking at that figure, and I I've been told by a few of my constituents that they have a new guy down there at the public or at the transfer station that's checking the cars coming in to see if they are indeed like registered in Milford. So I thought that was a nice idea because maybe we have too many people that are coming in that aren't from Milford. But currently, before that, could any car just drive in there? And I mean, did you have to have a sticker on your car to go in, or could you just drive in?
Predominantly, we always had a full-time operator down there, a weigh scale lead person, and then a general laborer. Presently, we have 1.5 positions. We have the full-time weigh scale, and then we have an operator that goes down part-time. And then we have what we call our fill-in men and women that come down as light duty. So if someone's on light duty, they're the persons that will be checking when we have, checking cars. And I'm sure we've had a few complaints that people were not Milford residents were using the transfer station. So it worked that we would put people on light duty to do that. We built a small little guard shack down there. So when you first come in, we bring one extra employee in on Saturdays because obviously Saturdays is a busy day with the residents, and they help unload people's cars to expedite people getting in and getting out.
Yeah, I see that, and that's awfully nice because they really do help out a lot down there, and they really help move the line because they get them in and out of there, which is nice. But currently, like the stickers that that they have, the City of Milford stickers that we have for using the parks and the beaches and stuff like that, those aren't necessary to have on your car to use the transfer station, am I correct?
We typically ask for a driver's license. So when a person comes in, previously, before this guard shack, people would just, if they saw a car coming in with Vermont plates, they would ask, and they'd get a driver's license. But now we try to check as people come into the lot.
Okay, that was what I was getting at. So, yeah, I think that's a move in the right direction because it's $2 million to get rid of that stuff. And, yeah, so if they want to use it, then certainly we should make them pay if they're not from Milford. So I like the idea of you having a guy down there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The single stream recycling that we have in our city is amazing, and I know that there are a lot of local businesses that would like to be able to participate in that, and I'm sure it's something that you've thought of and people have reached out to you. Is there a reason, or is there a way that we could allow businesses to be a part of the single stream?
I think there's a lot of opportunities in the city to, number one, go after the recycling, but also go after some of the trash businesses on the small businesses and give some opportunities for us to offset some of our costs. So yes, the answer is yes. Like I said, though, the problem right now with the commodity market, with what's going on over in China, it's going to be very challenging. There's a lot of downward pressure on the commodity market. Where it once was, it's not there any longer. There's a lot of hope that it's going to go up. I'm not as optimistic as some other people. I think that we have to change the way we collect, to be honest.
So just a quick follow-up. I mean, is there, I guess I would want to ask, is there any kind of timelines or anything? I mean, because if there is an opportunity to do it, are we actively pursuing that?
No, we haven't actively looked at that, but we will. We'll try to, I think that's something we can bring up at the Public Works Subcommittee meeting and maybe get a group of the aldermen to be part of it, help us expedite and give us some ideas on what they think would be more beneficial and what kind of businesses you would go after, which ones you want to go after, all the businesses or just some of them. Okay.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. Mr. Saley, we talked about the city waste removal costs. I know it's not just for the cost of the waste, but it's trucking and all of that collection. Being that the commodity market is in disarray right now, should we expect for this cost to go up, being that we're not getting a credit for our recyclables? Are we going to be actually paying to get rid of the recyclables, or are we presently getting rid of the recyclables at no cost?
Sure. No, presently, we're receiving $20 a ton. I can pretty much guarantee that that will not be on the table come July 1st. We're cautiously optimistic by going out to bid for the transfer station. We're going to see some savings, and we believe that savings will offset the costs associated with the recycling. That's why the mayor has kept this as a zero-line increase. And I think we're in a position we can do that. I think we offer, I think we'll have a good opportunity that saves the city some money, but it's going to cost us on the other end, so.
Okay, so you're confident that we're going to have to pay to get rid of recyclables?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions pertaining to solid waste? Seeing none, we'll open up under the last account under Public Works is wastewater, account number 4426, page 101 through 105. Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, sir. Deepa Joseph was here last evening, and one of the handouts that she gave us showed all of the discrete areas where the health department is involved. And one falls under the category of septic systems and private wells. And it says, from an enforcement standpoint, that they did 11 septic system inspections last year. They looked at plan reviews. They provided inspections for 46 septic systems that have been abandoned. What's the level of interface between the city engineer's office and Public Works and Health Department where it comes to septics, wells, and the like?
Well, typically, if they're doing an inspection for an abandonment, it means they're connecting to the city sewers. Most of the time, believe it or not, there's some well-developed areas that people are still on septics, and their septics have worked. It could be a small household that doesn't need it, and then maybe the septic fails, and they have to connect. That's that amount. But we interface with the health department and engineering very well. So if they have concerns, predominantly people come in and pull out a permit for a reconnection or a connection to our city sewers. And it's pretty seamless. They come out, they hire a contractor, they pay their street opening and their connection fee, which is somewhere, I think it's $100 combined. We connect and they start paying their yearly fee for the sewer.
So is it the health department that's providing the inspection and your department that's providing the service, or how does it work?
Typically, if someone's getting off a septic, they have to pump out their septic tank. They have to have the health department come in and inspect it. And typically, they collapse it. Once it's been pumped out, they fill it with material. By that time, we're connected at that point.
Great. Thank you.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Director Saley. Count number 42189916, dental grant premium of $53,000. Can you explain what that is?
Alderman Gurman, what page are you on? What is it? Oh, okay.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Gurman, I'll assist Director Saley in answering that question. That line item is actually the contribution by the wastewater, by the sewer fund for the wastewater employees, their share of the cost of dental insurance, and that amount gets deposited into the health insurance fund to pay in for the cost of dental insurance. And I'll clarify, we charge it to this budget because the sewer user fee helps support not only the cost of the wages of the wastewater employees, but also their share of the health and dental insurance.
So I'm still a little confused on that. So we're getting reimbursed for that, $53,000?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the Alderman, no, we're not getting reimbursed. The sewer fund is contributing to the health insurance fund. So in essence, you could say that the sewer fund is reimbursing the health insurance fund for the cost of health care as well as dental insurance through Anthem.
This one specifically for dental, or is that for health insurance?
This line item is specifically for dental.
53,000, huh?
Yes, and the health insurance is the line item above it, Blue Cross,
Yes, I
grant
see.
premium.
Any more questions pertaining to wastewater? Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Director Saley, the nitrogen credits, I don't see any listed here unless they're in the revenue side of our budget book.
Mr. Chairman, through you, this last year was approximately $96,000. What appears in your budget book is the expenditures. We reserve $1 there in case there is any expenditure. At the end of the year, the state gives us the report for the previous year, whether we have to pay nitrogen fees or whether we receive nitrogen credits. The last several years, a real credit to Ed Kozlowski and his department. We have been receiving credits as opposed to having to pay them. So it does get banked not into the general fund, but into the sewer fund, and we pay off those low-interest loans that come from the clean water loans from the state.
Just to follow up through you, Mr. Chairman, but the expectation is that it'll be a credit. We don't know that yet, or?
So if I can answer that question, as the mayor spoke, this year's credit will be approximately $43,000. But what the state has done, because of the financial condition they're in, it used to be even swap. So if you had a credit, you got a certain amount. If you had to buy a credit, you got a certain amount. Now, if you have to buy, it's $6 and change. If you get a credit, it's $2 and change. So they've discounted what we're getting paid. It's one of the reasons it went down from in the 90s to 43,000.
Okay, understood. Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, the positions in wastewater, are they all currently filled, or?
No, they're not.
Okay, so what's the intent? Which positions are open, and will they be filled?
Presently, we have approximately 8 positions that are empty or vacant, and we're in the process. We just posted for a position, and we're working with the Human Resources Department to get those positions filled.
And you want to fill all 8? Is that right?
I would anticipate filling the vast majority. I don't know if we would fill all 8, though. But honestly, I don't know. We process, this town is a little different than some of the abutting towns. We're one of the few towns in the area that have 2 treatment plants as opposed to a single treatment plant. Because of the topography of Milford, we have over 45 pump stations. The abutting towns have substantially less than that, so there's a lot of wear and tear, and there's a lot of work to be done, general maintenance and preventive maintenance.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, I was under the impression that you were looking to fill 11 positions in your entire department. Is that, it sounds like it's more than 11.
I think the discussion we had a few months ago at one of the Public Works Subcommittee meetings, the initial was to fill 11. At the time, there was 24 positions that are vacant. So that was the initial step, but our goal was to fill more than 11.
Okay, so what's the number? More than 11, what, all 24?
Well, right, I believe presently we have 27 positions that are vacant. But working with what's going on up at Hartford, we're working with the city, and we realize that we have to pull our fair share in. It'll be more than 11 and less than 25. That
Okay.
would be the number I would give you.
All right, thanks.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to the Director. Again, if all of the positions are not being filled or are not filled at this particular point in time in wastewater, begs the question as to why we don't see any step adjustment in any of those positions.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Vitale. You don't see the adjustments there because sometimes we have to be careful with Public Works looking at it overall because a lot of times there are internal transfers within the Public Works union into these positions. So, but I am open to the idea that if we know we're going to hire from the outside, then we can look at reducing it to the minimum step. But in some cases, there are internal transfers within the union itself.
I can understand that. As a follow-up, I can understand that, but isn't wastewater positions more technical and more demanding than the regular contractual position?
So if I can respond to that, an example why I believe we should leave them where they're at is that you're exactly right, Alderman Vitale. These positions are high-demand positions. The salaries have continued to rise more than the inflationary numbers that we've seen out in the general public. Right now, we're still struggling to fill the Class 4 certificates that we need at both our plants. Ed Kozlowski has been good enough, even though he's retired, to come in as a per diem and help the city continue to stay within the guidelines that DEEP requires. And truthfully, we interviewed a few people and they weren't interested in coming to the city because some of the wages were just too low.
Just to follow up on that, is there a contractual or a union agreement that you cannot negotiate a step, or you can negotiate a step if you're hiring somebody? In other words, if somebody comes into the system, should be on first step, first year hire, can you negotiate a step?
We have to go before the civil service and ask them for that approval. We've done that recently for the auto mechanic, not to get off onto another department. But
So that is
the answer is yes.
a practice that has been acceptable to the unions? Is that
Yes.
contractual? Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple. One on page 102, under 4442-0000, electricity. I noticed there's, probably a $20,000 reduction in that account. Is that because of the new fuel cell that we're going to be, that's making the electricity from natural gas? And, we're paying so much. Is that reflective of that?
No. That was, the department had asked for $1.3 million. You're talking about electricity. The mayor brought it back down to pretty much the historic level. We weren't sure where we were negotiating a new term for the electricity rates. And the fuel cell probably won't be operational for at least a year anyway, so it probably wouldn't be part of this budget anyways.
Okay, so that new fuel cell, once it's operational, will be working on natural gas, right?
That's correct.
I had my hopes up several years ago when the idea of using the byproducts from the digesters to use to make help make electricity, and it was free and we got an abundance of it, and there was some real exciting news that maybe that was going to happen. But can you tell me why we aren't moving in that direction?
Sure. Right now, the technology is very challenging because of the makeup of the methane. It's called a dirty methane, and to scrub it and clean it is very expensive. And there's a lot of breakdowns with that combustion component when they use the methane. Right now, especially where natural gas has come in, new pipelines been put online, so natural gas is substantially lower than I think a few years ago. So there's been some rethinking of how to use the methane.
Okay, thank you. Just one other thing here. On page 104, your computer, 4977-0190, it's $2,400. Could you give me a little something about that? Is it more than one computer? Is it with software? What is that?
So the wastewater division as a whole has a number of SCADA systems, but they also have a number of computers throughout the department. And I believe this is for one computer and the software associated with it. It's not a simple computer that you could just buy off the shelf, especially with the software that's tied in with it.
Okay, thank you very much, and I would like to commend you that your nitrogen credits, instead of us paying thousands of dollars, we now have a $43,000 credit, and yeah, I think Mr. Kozlowski is doing an excellent job down there. I really wish he wasn't retiring, but it's a good reflection on you. You're the boss, and I'd like to see that. We're getting money in and not paying money out, so nice job over there.
I appreciate that, but that really is Ed Kozlowski and John Trapp and Steve Gaudio that have done a tremendous job with the process operations at both plants, both Beaverbrook and Housatonic, but I do appreciate Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Any more questions regarding wastewater? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Saley, for entertaining our questions. We learned a lot about Public Works tonight. And thank you very much for all the work you do for the citizens in Milford.
Thank you, Chairman.
And you too, Mr. Johnson. We didn't forget you.
I thought I was going to get out of here fast like the borough of Woodmont, but
Yeah,
it didn't happen that way.
that ain't happening. The next account on our agenda is account number 4154, Sewer Commission. Page 98. I don't see anybody here for the Sewer Commission. You want to talk about that, Mr. Saley?
Sure. That's it's a stipend paid to our administrative assistant, Beverly Hayes, and she runs pretty much all of the Sewer Commission.
Anybody have any questions pertaining to the Sewer Commission? Seeing none, that's it.
I have one.
Whoop, we almost got up. Not so much. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you. I'm not an expert in this by no means. I'm not even really even moderately versed in this, but I don't know if this is the right account or anything, but in regards to the communities that have over 50,000 people, they have to put an additive like in the water for lead. Do we do that here?
To be honest, I would have to ask Mr. Kozlowski because I've never heard of that before. But I'm not saying it doesn't happen, so I can get back to you on that, Alderman Vecchiarelli, if that's okay.
I was watching the Flint, Michigan thing, and...
Where did it happen?
Well, in Flint, Michigan,
okay.
Remember they had a big problem there. Basically, that problem was they stopped putting the additive in the water, and which allowed basically the coating of the lead pipes on the inside to they washed away, and so now the lead was exposed. So I looked, it was like 50,000 people. Then we should be putting an additive in our water to protect the lead pipes. And I was just wondering if you knew. Maybe if you could ask and you could tell me, let me know. I was wondering.
I will ask Mr. Kozlowski. I will tell you, though, that the effluent that goes over the waterfall over there is drinkable if you ever want to try it. So it's down there at the treatment plant, believe it or not. I know people laugh, but it's very clear. And I don't know how many aldermen and alderwomen have gone there, but it's unbelievable what they do at those treatment plants.
And Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Vecchiarelli, the Regional Water Authority is charged with drinking water. Only the sewer system is a municipal utility, and they have safety valve to make sure that the drinking water in the Southwestern Regional Water Authority is safe to drink. And there's been even more oversight over the past several years since the incident in Flint.
Standing to the Sewer Commission. Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Director Saley, can you just briefly just tell us, I know that we've been doing a lot of sewer infrastructure repairs throughout the city, and we've been spending millions upon millions of dollars year after year. Are we in a good place right now as far as are we catching up to where we need to be, or is there still a lot of work that needs to be done?
You know, it's interesting you bring it up. I believe we have a lot of infiltration still throughout the city. We have a lot of older pipes, and they're just very expensive to repair. I think one of the things that we should be looking at is trying to pipeline a lot of these pipes, especially down in the beach communities. Mr. Johnson and I were just doing some calculations of how many gallons we have processed. And truthfully, we have some commercial use, so it's a little skewed. But the way we equate it, it's like 130 gallons per resident per day, which is a tremendous amount of water. So we know we have a lot of I&Is, which is infiltration into the sewer system. And we've made some major changes and major improvements, but there's still a lot of work left to be done.
Thank you.
Any more questions pertaining to the Sewer Commission? Alderman Anderson.
Briefly, not a question, but we, as aldermen, toured both plants 2-3 years ago, I think it was. There's interest on the part of our newer members in touring, so I'd like to set up a tour for Beaverbrook and Housatonic plants.
And if we could, I'd also like to bring you to some of the treatment plants. I mean,
Yep.
some of the pump stations.
Yep.
And I want to make sure the aldermen realize that we're retrofitting or upfitting Rock Street and also Welch's Point. Those are two decent-sized pump stations, especially Welch's Point. So I think it would be important so you understand the process. It's pretty intriguing.
Any more questions regarding the Sewer Commission account? I think that's it. Thank you, Mr. Saley.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Thank you for answering all our questions. The next account on our agenda is account number 4141, Board of Finance, page 26. If you have any questions pertaining to the Board of Finance? I don't see any, so we'll close under Board of Finance and open under a new account, number 4121, Mayor's Office, page 17.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. We came in with a relatively flat budget. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you for keeping the budget nice and flat, Mr. Mayor. Any questions pertaining to Mayor's Office? Seeing none.
I have one.
Mr. Alderman Vecchiarelli has a question.
I have just one, and I'm wondering if the mayor can answer this. Maybe not, but in our city, do you have any idea how many people, directors or whatever, on a regular salary make more than you?
You don't do this job for the pay. You do it because you love what you do each and every day, and you love the community, you love the people. I'm not the highest paid, I'm not the lowest paid, but I think I'm the highest paid in terms of the reward.
That's not really what I was looking for, but okay. We just want to make sure that we keep that position, not just for you, but, you know, whatever mayor's sitting in that spot, because it just seems like everybody comes before us, they all make more than you, and you're the boss, but, okay, I just wanted to see if you knew. I know you know, but you're not telling me.
Any more questions pertaining to the Mayor's Office account? Seeing none, we'll close then under that account and open under the new account, number 4122, General Expenses, page 19.
And if you have any questions, Peter or I are happy to answer those.
Is there any questions pertaining to General Expenses account? I don't see any. Our last account for the evening would be account number 4111, Board of Aldermen, page 14. Any questions regarding the Board of Aldermen account?
So it's not a question, but it's something that I'm surprised I still get asked every time, and I want to mention it because of Alderman Vecchiarelli's question. People still believe that we get paid for this, and I mean, we do not at all. I mean, this is completely volunteer, and bring it up because this is, you know, the line item. But again, we're all doing this because we care for the city, because we love the city, and it's important that everybody, all of the residents know that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Grant. Alderman Vecchiarelli?
Yeah. Yep. I echo Alderman Grant's comments over there, and I also, having watched the mayor operate, and I don't say this because I'm in the same party he is, but he seems to be doing a remarkable job in running the city and all the different aspects that you need to run a city. And so when I do talk about your pay, you know, I'm not talking about that in any, the reason I bring that up is because we need the very best managers that we can get for this city. And it isn't by accident that this city is in good a shape and is run the way that it is without the good people that we have in our government. And so there are people that look at the mayor's position and it doesn't pay them enough money to basically seek it. And I know that, you know, it's the most honorable position, the best position in the world, but there are, in my tenure of my political career, you know, I've seen where there are people that can't really do the job because it's a much lower paying job, and these are very qualified people. So I say that with all sincerity. There are many people that get paid more money than you, and you are the one that leads the city, and so for that, you know, I thank you, and you know, the position maybe warrants a little more than it has, than it gets, but I understand you, and thank you. And to all the aldermen that do volunteer their time, it's really, it's an honor for us to even be here, and I know it's a labor of love, and I thank everybody here for doing it myself.
Thank you, Alderman Vecchiarelli and Alderman Grant. I agree with both of you folks, and I appreciate all the good work and the hard work that this entire board does and all of our city commissions. Again, Milford is so successful because of our volunteers, and I know that this community appreciates it.
At this time, is there any more questions pertaining to the Alderman Vitale?
I don't know if it pertains to that expense, but just an announcement before we adjourn, Mr. Chair. I don't know if you want to finish, and then I'd just like to say something before we adjourn, or before we go into.
Let's see if there's any more questions pertaining to the Board of Aldermen account. Is there any more questions pertaining to the Board of Aldermen account? Okay. Go ahead,
I'd just like to thank the mayor in his budget with Milford Prevention Council, because this year's $2,000 that is allocated to the Milford Prevention Council, and my being a part of that for a long time. Just a reminder that on Saturday from 10 to 2, there's National Drug Give Back Day. So if any of you have any medications that you want to get rid of and not keep them or flush them, please, Senior Center, between 10 and 2 o'clock. It's a national effort, but we on Milford Prevention Council will be there and co-sponsor it. So I thank you for that allocation. Hopefully we can get more in the future, but because a lot of work to be done in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Vitale. Is there a motion to recess to the next budget meeting?
So moved.
Next budget meeting will be Wednesday, May 2nd, 7 o'clock. Motion's been made and seconded to recess. We are in recess.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's on a Wednesday.